everyone, my name is Erin Chapman and this is my case study Every Day Counts for AEP 858, Spring 2020. Okay, so in this case study, Mr. Rhodes is a first-year principal at Oak Groves High School, and Oak Groves High School is a middle-income family high school that has some children in poverty. They also are newly diversified with some Hispanic and Asian families moving in and have a very low turnover for teachers. Dr. Newman, who's the school superintendent, lets Mr. Rhodes know that the attendance problem is starting to get out of hand and they have the lowest attendance in the district, and then told Mr. Rhodes that he needs to solve this problem and he can partner with social services in the juvenile courts. After Christmas break or winter break, Mr. Rhodes sits down and looks at the files of 5 students that have had some chronic attendance issues. And looking at them, he sees that Karen's an 11th grader that started having issues just this year. She was newly married in August, even though she is a junior. And her grades have been going down since this year. Also, Karen missed a midterm. Tyrone is a 10th grader who's an honor student. He's missed 14 days. Now, his parents travel for work and take him on those excursions and do educational things with him. Once to Washington, D.C., and then also to Canada. And Tyrone's homeroom teacher excused the second week's absences, and all of his work was turned in. Christine is a 9th grader who missed 4 days in a row on 3 different weeks for out-of-town church meetings, with no locations or dates given. The homeroom teacher signed off on these as excused, even though they shouldn't have been. And Christina's algebra teacher knows that 2 major exams were missed due to these absences, and she, on top of the algebra grades, has 2 C's and a D in her other classes. Then we have Carl, who's a 10th grader in regular classes in the morning and the vocational classes for drafting and construction in the afternoon. He misses random days with no letters, and he was referred to the truant officer in November. When the officer made a home visit, Carl's father said that he wasn't concerned about attendance and that he could miss whenever he didn't feel well, and also that it was none of the school's business. He stated that since he didn't finish high school, he could also have Carl just drop out and go to work with him. And lastly, there's John, who's a junior and a quarterback of the high school football team, and he was injured around Labor Day. John goes to physical therapy Tuesday and Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. and misses the classes because of that, and also had a note in his file from the athletic director who said to please excuse him from Friday afternoon classes on game day so he can go home and rest. Even though John has missed 3 days of afternoon classes every week, no teachers have reported any sort of absences or excessive absences for him. Mr. Rhodes needs to create a culture that values attendance and understands the relationship between academic achievement and attendance that includes all staff members and stakeholders. All right, so there are some legal and ethical issues in here, and these are the ones that I thought of. Karen's an 11th grader who was married in August. Is this marriage something that you wanted, or was it arranged forced marriage? This could be an issue if the school knows about any sort of abuse or marriage that has happened that could be forced but never looked into it. It did say the counselor did not call about this issue. If Carl's not 16, it could be illegal for him to drop out even if his father wants him to and to go to work. Religious gatherings are protected, so I personally would plan out exactly how to approach Christina's mother about her missing school for these out-of-church town meetings. If an athlete is getting special treatment while other students are getting in trouble for missing classes or their grades are getting lowered, it could be seen as discrimination. So I would also nip that in the bud quickly because other parents could go to the superintendent or even the news about that. And lastly, the law has clear-cut attendance requirements, and the school district could be in legal trouble if they're not meeting these requirements for attendance. My one-sentence synthesis, and that's a picture of what I think Golden Oaks might look like. Golden Oaks High School needs an attendance policy that will be consistently followed no matter who the student is. I think that's important that there's no special treatment for athletes or for anyone else. Everyone needs to be on the same playing field when it comes to attendance. Of course, there is illness and family deaths or things like that that can be taken into account, but regularly it needs to be just a consistent across-the-board attendance policy. All right, so then we have the facts. We have the people: Mr. Rhodes, Dr. Newman, Karen, Tyrone, Christina, Carl, John. The homeroom teachers that are just signing off on these absences or not reporting them. And then there's the athletic director who wants special treatment for his players. We are at Golden Oaks High School, new diversity with Hispanic and Asian families, 965 students, which is actually not a very large school. In the Kansas City metropolitan area, they're much larger than that. And middle-class families with a few in poverty, and then a very low teacher turnover rate. The programs are 9th through 12th grade. There's special education, general ed, honors classes, and vocational. 11 different sports teams, with football being the dominant sport, which is why I put football in there. And 31 different clubs and after-school activities. Reviewing and prioritizing the information. Says right here, could the conflict, the situation, or decision be damaging to the stakeholders? If students don't have regular attendance, their education could be damaged by lowering the school's reputation, and parents could just take their kids to other schools, or charter schools, or private schools. What individual groups have an important stake in the outcome? Students, staff, and community families have important stakes. If the reputation of the school goes bad, the community could suffer, with residents moving out and jobs leaving. I've seen that happen before in other districts that I've worked in. I've had parents say, we won't be back next year. This district is not what I want. And they just picked up and moved to another area so their kids could go to a different school. And Golden Oaks does not want that. And have all the relevant stakeholders been consulted? I don't think they have. Some of the parents have been consulted, many haven't. Also, the counselors only mentioned once as not calling a student to ask her about her marriage. So I don't think everyone has been consulted. I think parents need to be contacted. The counselor needs to get involved, and also social services and the juvenile courts if need be. What can I learn more about the situation? Of course, I can always learn more about a situation. There's always room for information about what they've done in the past when they were winning awards, and what the other schools are putting in place, talking to the other principals. But I do feel like I have enough information right now to look at options. Then it says under there, do I have enough information to make a decision? Yes, I feel like I know enough about the attendance policy, school expectations, and student info to make a decision on what needs to be done as of right now. It might not be a final solution, but as of right now. Okay, so there's 3 different options I put up there. One is do nothing at all and let the attendance policy continue as they are without any additional interference. Second, Mr. Rhodes could conduct a professional development on the correlation of attendance with academic success in high school. Following the PD, he would outline the attendance policy, along with talking about what consequences there would be if staff didn't follow it. So putting consequences into place for the staff that doesn't follow it, and also the students. And then another idea would be just talking to the individual teachers, homeroom teachers, and the athletic director about what they're doing and how it's violating the policy. About signing the absences when they should not be, and the athletic director about rest afternoons for his athletes. All right, so the 3 options have pros and cons. The pros of option 1, changing nothing, is none. I don't think it's a good idea at all. There's no pros to it. Cons, nothing will change. Attendance will not improve and may even get worse. Number 2, professional development on academic success and attendance. Pros, staffs will better understand how attendance influences academic success, and also know that they will be held accountable for following policy. And hopefully attendance will increase. Cons, teachers may become upset that they will be held accountable for something that may not seem important to them. And parents may be upset that this could affect their students' grades. And 3, speaking with the teachers who have not been following policy. Pros, you're talking directly to the people who are not following policy instead of calling people out in a large group setting, or doing a training that maybe all of them do not need. And you have a way of keeping these teachers accountable. There's the pros. The cons, teachers will probably be upset that they're being talked to about their behavior, and parents might be upset that this could affect their students' grades. A lot of the knowing about high school and having 3 high schoolers myself, they usually talk. Teachers talk, especially athletic directors talk to their athletes, and it could go bad and you don't have complete control of the situation on how the information gets out. All right, so I think the best option is Mr. Rhodes conducting that professional development and then also outlining the policy with talking about the consequences for the staff that do not follow it. This professional development will help staff understand the importance of attendance, and Mr. Rhodes can also speak to the whole staff at once and set the expectations completely. This new policy, because I'm sure he's going to change some things with adding consequences, will also be sent out to every student's family, so all stakeholders have the same information. The policy will also be in all student classes and on the syllabus, so it'll be gone over in all classes. There could also be an incentive program for students where they can be rewarded for their attendance, and this could be anything from certificates to movie passes if he wishes. So implementing the decision. I think there are some steps that Mr. Rhodes needs to take before he even gets this done. First, he needs to gather all the research about attendance affecting academics success in high school students. Then he needs to go over the attendance policy and make sure there's clear steps and consequences if the policy is not followed. Plan and present an engaging professional development, presenting the data and the complete policy, and have the superintendent there also so that everyone knows that he's just not going rogue, that this is something that the district wants. Give a copy of the attendance policy along with the research to each teacher in either hard copy, electronic, or both. Make sure that this policy is reviewed regularly. This policy will be put on the school's social media and sent to all parents so that everyone involved with the school knows what is expected of them in terms of attendance. So we're covering all the stakeholders. Everyone gets a copy of the policy. Everyone knows the rules and no one's surprised. So what may happen? Staff could get upset about it. Staff or teachers could not return the next year. Staff could ignore the policy and carry on as normal. Mr. Rhodes could have to reprimand or write up staff not following the policy, and parents could be upset at the new policy, especially athletic parents that may have been getting away with things in the past could be upset with this because they're being held accountable. What if it doesn't work? Which is a possibility. I think it'll take a while before everyone gets the message that attendance is important and that things are changing at Golden Oaks High School. Mr. Rhodes should plan on having an impact within a year of the new policy be put in place. He may have to have grades lowered, call truant officers, and write up staff that do not follow the policy. I think it could go as far as not renewing some staff if they're not following it. And it's not just not following the policy, but also the law of students being in there. If it does not work, I was Mr. Rhodes, I would then reach out to the other high school principals, social services, and the juvenile courts to see what other programs could be put into place to increase attendance and make sure that all stakeholders are kept accountable. So this is our standard. It's where we are going to have that educational leadership program. I think this goes really well with these standards. This assignment does, because I'm putting myself in the place of a school principal and looking at all the facts, all that's happening, the laws, coming up with options, how I would implement them, and then what happens then? Like, what if it doesn't work? What am I going to do then? How am I going to hold people accountable and staff accountable? And then also going over the research for attendance with the success of students. That is very data-driven. And I think that this is something that could happen in the future that I would have to deal with. So I think this went very well with these standards. That is my case study on Everyday Counts. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much.